Yes, team. I hope that you're well. So today we have our first guest onto the podcast. We have Mike. Mike is one of my very good friends and also as well one of my very good clients. So he is over the last few years. And yeah, I'm really, really excited. You're gonna get an insight to an absolute savage. So you are. There's gonna be a lot that you're gonna be able to take away. To give, I suppose, like it's kind of hard for me to sort of summarize Mike, but because there's so much. Mike, he's a black belt. He's competed. He's got an absolutely savage shape. He runs a very successful business. So he does. You might hear me refer to King of Jersey in this episode. So you might, because he's one of the leading coaches in Jersey. So yeah, we're gonna get stuck in. We're just gonna shoot from where we feel, and I'm sure you're gonna get some stories. I'm sure you're gonna get a lot of insights just to how he operates and things. So yeah, so Mike, I suppose tell the guys a little bit about yourself.
What an introduction that was. Cheers, Ben. So yeah, I'm a coach from Jersey. I'm BJJ black belt. Under your guidance, competed in natural bodybuilding. And yes, I've been coaching now for a few years, focused on business leaders now, train a lot of BJJ athletes and things like that. And yeah,
A few years. You're discounting yourself about 2 decades there, mate.
that's it.
You are the OG.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more than a few years.
Yeah. So I suppose tell the guys a little bit about when you started the academy. Why did you start it? Why did you want to come on board?
So I remember when we first chatted about it, and at that point I was like a lot of lads. I thought I knew how to train. I was already training a lot of martial arts, and I'd been training in the gym for years, but never really had that accountability of having someone there to be able to push me to the next level. We had a chat about it, and you asked me things about kind of where I wanted to get to, what my goals were, and it was through that chat really with yourself and just kind of having a structure and knowing that I'd have someone there to support who wanted to push me towards the goals that I wanted as well, that made me go, right, okay, I'm going to do this. Because up until that point, I've never considered coaching really, even though being a coach myself.
What did accountability look like for you? Because you've been training for 15 years or so. What did accountability? What was the difference between you doing things? Because it's not motivation. It's not an aspect of you're an absolute savage. It's how did it help you? What was the difference for you?
I think having that, knowing that I had someone there in my corner, or potentially having someone there in my corner who would understand my goals or would push me beyond what I thought I was capable of, or where I would set my limits. So I just remember on our first chat where you're going, you could do this, you could do that, you could do that. I was like, really? And then that just gave me that inspired me to okay, right, this is good. I'm going to have someone in my corner here who's going to force me to level up, and chase these things rather than just going on autopilot. And like you said, I was satisfied with what I was doing. I was training martial arts at a decent level, thought I was training in the gym at a decent level, and I had people around me asking for advice, looking up to me. So I thought that I was pushing myself to where I needed to be pushed to. And then you kind of helped me realize that there was another level to get to, and that if I was to be accountable to someone, that I could push my potential beyond what I was currently doing.
I think that's a great point, because I think and you probably hear me say it to you, is how do we pull out the 1%? It's how can you pull out, and all those 1% when you do it, when you've got someone looking over you, it really just gets you. Those 1%, it's just insane the amount they add up. I suppose because it was quite new to you from a fitness perspective, tell me a little bit about your fighting background. How did coaches get the best out of you and your fighting background? What did they do? How did they? Because obviously you're the one doing the training and things, but how did they really push you? Because I know I've met Eddie,
Yeah.
so how, like, from your fighting background, how did they get the best out of you?
So that's a great question, because it's quite a different dynamic with fighting and with jiu-jitsu and MMA and things like that. And I was actually having this discussion recently about, for example, when I was preparing for competition, preparing for fights, and different people prepare in different ways. Some people you need to stay calm with them. Some people it needs to be an aggressive approach, but it's like a case-by-case basis. And Miro, who's my coach, figured with me, for example, I was telling that funny story about before the times I would compete, he would have to destroy me in the warm-up room just to bring that dog out of me, you know? Whereas some people can just go straight onto the mats and they're ready to go. I had to be absolutely exhausted and ready to get into my second wind. And the reason I say that is because when I started working with you, you know, you were able to see kind of what made me tick, and you were right, okay, these are the goals that I think you could do. What do you think? And that's something that I realized early on with you, and we joke about it a lot, is that you're always asking questions like, why do you think that? What can we bring out of you? Where can we push this to? What do you think about it? And then that gets me to think, oh, okay, right. We could push this to a bodybuilding stage, or to a photo shoot, or to big lifts, the half marathon, whatever it is. You know, the goals have evolved over time, right? But with the going back to the martial arts, it's kind of seeing where I perform best, or seeing where clients perform best, and then just seeing how it's best to approach them. You know, sometimes you have to go in hard, sometimes it needs to be more gentle. It depends.
And like, when you came on board, what was it that started the shift from a training perspective? Because I remember our first session in Belfast.
Yes.
I remember in London too, where we all snuck in.
Oh, that was amazing, yeah.
I'll let you tell the listeners, like, what? The Pure Gym.
Yes, the Pure Gym. So there was 4 of us, right, that went training. And what time? I think we all decided to go training about 9-10 o'clock at night. And
tell them how we got into the gym.
Yeah, so I think we'd been at the event that day. Been at an event, and we got into the gym. I think just one of the lads, maybe Tony, was a member, or Dave was a member, but only one, and the other 3 of us couldn't get in. So we came up with the ingenious idea of all trying to cram into the turnstile that's built for one person. 4 of us. None of us were small lads. 4 big lads trying to do this. And we pretty much got stuck, didn't we? We were trying to film ourselves going to this. We're just cramming in. I know, and I'm surprised we didn't break the thing. And we all just tumbled out the other side. We're all giggling like kids, But that was really funny. And then we got a great session in there. And I remember you took us through the session, coached us all through that, which was great fun, and just some real good tips that I know for me I hadn't heard before. I remember us doing the long rope tricep push downs and a couple of other little bits that I hadn't even seen before. And like you said, I've trained for a lot of years. Thought I knew a lot. Thought I knew it all, like a lot of lads. And for me, that was I really enjoyed experiencing that new kind of coaching perspective. So, and the same thing happened in Belfast. I remember coming over, I think I was staying with you at the time, and we went to, what was the name of the gym?
Gymco. And you took us as well at the end of one of the drop-in sessions. You took us through the bicep.
Oh yes, the bicep masterclass. Yeah.
Mike has the biggest biceps out there.
We did the biceps at the end, didn't we? So I can't remember if that was on the same day or another day, because I think the day that I trained with you, mate, you just destroyed me.
Yeah,
you just destroyed me, and coming to the end of the leg press, or thinking what I thought was the end of the leg press set, You're like, no, we're just starting.
Arnie is like, oh, he's like, I know when it starts to get sore.
Exactly. You're like, strap in now, mate. And yeah, I remember hobbling back to the changing rooms, and that's when we took our first progress photos. I think, do you remember that? So to the first progress photos, and I thought then, I just looking back on it now, it's funny. I thought then, God, I'm in good shape.
And you were like, most guys would like
Yeah.
look like that, but it wasn't like if you see the after where you created
Actually, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like night and day. And I remember at the time thinking, yeah, I look good in these photos. And then when you compare them, I'm like, wow, what a difference.
There was one, I know it was around Christmas a year later, and you were just jacked. It was the same sort of photo, but you were just like, it was just crazy the amount of size. And I remember Aaron O'Malley, he actually said the other day that he saw that photo and he's like, he thought like he'd seen everything, but he's like, I saw Mike's photo and I was like, I will pack on muscle and motivating me.
Yeah. It was great just kind of looking back on that and the growth and just the structure that I got from the academy, and pushing and that particular training session as well, thinking I up until that point I thought I trained hard, and I had that kind of old school mindset of just really, I thought I was pushing myself. And I just remember the thing that sticks out was that leg press when I was just ready to quit. Like, no, we've got sets to go, but it was good, painful at the time, but that's what got those results,
People under the pain kit.
Exactly.
I suppose for listeners, like the thing I want to share is like Mike is he's been in incredible shape before the academy. He is in incredible shape, but it was like the things that took him to another level was optimizing the plan, like we said about. That was one of the things that you were sort of taken back by in London, because it's like when you're training by yourself, you usually go towards your own preferences, and it's like when you have a new angle or something different, or like you should try a technique like this. Like two people can do the same exercise, but if you tweak it, you can change the outcome from that exercise. That, and then also as well, like even I used to go over to Nottingham and I used to get absolutely battered from my coach. But it took that one session where, yes, like I knew that adrenaline, I knew I couldn't train like that 52 weeks of the year, but I knew by just going to that place, it was enough to help me realize that when I'm in my home gym, when I'm training by myself, that it can just push you that extra few reps. And it's those things, like especially for you where you're at, like training for so many years, it's that like little 1%, little 1 reps, little 1 percentages that you need, and you need to force that adaptation. Otherwise, like you see it all the time with your clients and stuff. You see guys train 3, 4, 5, 6 years and they look the same year on year, or they're in the same position or lifting the same weights. Yeah, like, well, what would you say to that? Because obviously, like, the last sort of 3 years, we probably made more progress in the last 3 years, and you probably made way.
Absolutely. Yeah, and also training.
What would you say to that? Like, guys that are maybe, like, plateauing, or, like, what's your experience? What advice would you give? Like,
I think the biggest thing for me was, and this is me personally, but I think it will help a lot of guys, is being able to park the ego and just go, right, get a new perspective. And just lean into it and listen. So I remember signing up with you. I was like, right, I'm now handing the reins over to Ben, and that was like a win in itself for me, because that was teaching me that I was able to release control a little bit. And I always realized that was a struggle of mine, as being a bit of a control freak and staying in my comfort zone and things. And I think as well, just asking questions and going back to what you said before about the martial arts, like you kept reminding me that I had that mindset. And in the gym, because I got comfortable in the gym, I'd forget that I would go through all these like brutal training camps and things like that, where I'd put myself in the hurt locker, but I wasn't doing it in the gym. I think once you drag that out of me and you reminded me of things like that, and I was able to kind of push to that next level and get those results. So yeah, I think with guys that, and I heard a really good perspective actually recently, where someone said to me, exactly as you said there, like guys might 5-6 years, they might train in the gym but not really see much progress. And it's not actually 5 or 6 years progress, it's the same year they've done 5 or 6 times. Right? So they've just done the stuff like it's great perspective, isn't it? I think so many guys do that. And it's because they're stuck in their comfort zone. Oh, okay, I'm going to go in the gym, it's chest day or it's whatever, I'm going to do the exercises that I like. And I remember kind of going back to that London gym session. I'd never done spider curls before.
Yeah.
And you teaching me what those were, and just knowing, there's actually a lot of stuff out there that I haven't done before that I can get results from. So that was a big thing for me.
Do you know what? Like, you see, as you say that lights a little bit up me, because what I hear is like you get someone that's like a guy in their 20s or 30s, and they're saying, "Oh, what?" You ask them, you're talking back and forth. What are you doing? They're like, "Oh, I'm doing the 10K test." You're not fucking Susie Sally, 60 years old, doing a 10K test. It's like you get first doing it.
Yes.
And it's like for you, like it might have been novelty of a new exercise, a new response, a new stimulus to really hit the muscle, but it's like. It's that's an exceptional point. Like you're just doing the same year 5-6 times. Whereas like what are you actually doing differently? What are you doing a level ahead? What are you doing? It's how, like you hear me say run today's race all the times. Like what are you doing that's taking it up in it and a notch?
Yeah.
That's so good.
No, it's great. And I think when you speak to me about my kind of and over time you've spoken to me about my martial arts, door work or whatever, like different perspectives that I have that kind of a kind of commonplace for me that I don't think are anything different. And you're like, it is different. 100%. Get yourself in that mindset, and then I remember telling you, I don't know if you remember, like a funny story about when I was preparing for a fight and I had all the lads in my gym, just for whatever reason, I was the only one preparing for a fight. A few of their fights had fallen through. So they just beat the hell out of me for the whole training camp. And I'd almost kind of parked that in my head, and then you were reminding me again. That's the attitude that you need when you're going into the gym, when you're pushing for new progress. Remember that Mike, not the Mike who just goes in and goes through it. And it's like, yeah, I have been through that. I have done that. I know it's there. And that's where I would say for people, like to have someone in your corner, to have someone holding you to that level of accountability and reminding you not only what your goals are, but also what you're capable of. And, that, you can drag it out yourself.
You've heard me say on the huddle, but it's, by the way, the huddles are a team call every Tuesday, but it's like, know what you bring to the table. Like when you bring a lot to the table, so sometimes it's even just, by the way, you've done X, Y, and Z. Like this is like, forget this. Like, don't get me wrong, it's good to go in like, to a new day as a beginner and stuff, but at the same time as well, like how much more strength are you going to go into tasks if right, I've done X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And sometimes, on the huddle, you'll hear people talking about, whether they're running marathons or whether they've done judo or whether they've, whatever it is. And they're probably thinking, oh, it's because they've done it for a while. They don't think it's anything special, but I'll be listening going, oh, that's awesome. And I think what's great with you is that you're reminding people that's awesome. That's a skill. That's the mindset that you want to, bring to the table with your training. How do we push this further?
One thing I really want to unpack, because Mike has an incredible level of discipline, and especially where I seen that most heightened was the bodybuilding show. Like you were just relentless, like absolutely relentless in the focus. Like, so Mike came on board, and Mike, like at the start, we really sort of built up like lower body, we really built up intensity, it was kind of, I sort of said to him, like, I want you to see this as a beginning phase and just like a redevelopment of his physique. But then once we'd done that, packed on all the size, we said, right, natural bodybuilding show, let's go. And that moment that you started prep, and we probably, from my side, let you maybe go a bit heavier than what we would have. So we did have a tight time frame.
Mm.
How did you like stay disciplined? How did you stay locked in? How did you not go for how did you not skip corners? What can we learn from you today in regard to just stick? Because you done it today.
Yes, yeah. I remember, I think locking in, I think that was part of the motivation to get locked in, was the fact that I'd got a little bit sloppy towards the end of, well, not sloppy, but I'd got maybe a little bit lackadaisical towards the end of the gaining phase. I was like, okay, right, we've now got 16 weeks, I think it was, I can't remember, 16 weeks to get locked into this. I was like, right, well, I'm only doing this. And I actually went into kind of fight camp mentality and go, right, I've got one crack at this. So I want to bring my best to the table. So every time there was a chance to maybe, get a little bit lax on food or lax on sleep or lax on hydration or whatever it was, I was like, no, I will know. And you reminded me of this, actually. You're like, there's no hiding on stage. You will know. You don't want to look at those photos and go, I could have pushed 5% more, 10% more. And I just kept that in the back of my head all the way through the prep. Even when things started it almost got easier as it got harder, if that makes sense. Because I was like, okay, right, I'm starting to feel it now, but this is what I'm doing it for. And for me, I want the juice to be worth the squeeze. I don't want to be getting there thinking I could have done more.
And one thing you shared with the guys, and it was so powerful and stuck in my mind, was I'm not letting the go around other people like influencing your decision. I'm not putting my results in their hands.
Yeah.
Talk like that. That was an incredible point.
Yeah. I think it's something that I've noticed with myself, but also noticed with clients, is that you kind of get caught up with people that are around you and start making decisions based on what other people want to do, or whether it's a social event, whether they want to, I don't know, chat on the phone, whether they want to go for a couple of drinks with it. And I realized, and that was the catalyst, really, was my prep, was that I'm not letting anything derail this. And would it even be worth it? Like, for me, it was crazy to even consider that. Would it be worth me sacrificing all this effort that I've put into this because someone wants to go and do something that they could do any weekend, any day of the week, But I'm not doing that. I'm not putting my results in someone else's hands. I want to be, because I'm doing this for me, right? I want the experience. I want the photos. I want to be able to look back on it and go, right, that's down to my hard work.
I know, like, there's going to be guys listening to this, right, that are procrastinating because they think that they need to go into fight cup mode. They need to go into locked in mode. And I know that you work with some of those successful men in Jersey and around the world, like millionaires that are running multiple companies, that are crazy busy, flying everywhere. How do you, because again, like, for the guys here, like, Mike's got like 60-year-old, absolutely ripped, like absolutely shredded. So I'm presuming, now I don't know what you do with them, but I'm presuming you don't do fight cup mode. Because like, yes, we were going to the gym the other day, and you said that there was a flip point moment. You had this client that was a really busy, using business as pleasure and not necessarily like getting locked in. What is it that, like, how do you get these guys who are crazy busy, millions of responsibilities? How do you get like these? Do you give them a fight cup mentality, or is it more like integration? Like, what's the strategy that you would use?
Yeah, it's not really fight camp mode, at least certainly not at the beginning. And especially with these kind of successful businessmen, it's basically just getting them started and and what I try to establish at the beginning is getting that level of trust. Just going, right, I need you to trust me with what I'm saying here, because you are going to feel better and you are going to start seeing results. And what I say to a lot of people is, once you feel it, you're off to the races then. So you just have to trust me up until that point. But then when you start feeling the difference in your clothes, when you start feeling the difference in the level of energy, when you start feeling the difference in the performance of the gym, you start feeling more clarity when you're working, because that's a big thing, especially for businessmen, right? Start thinking they've got more energy in the office, or they're thinking clearer on calls or whatever. That's when they'll be thinking, I like this. How do I compound this? How do I do this more? So I'd say the first phase is about having that trust in me or as their coach. And then you can kind of gauge their level when they go, yeah, I this is feeling good now. How do we push this? And then just do it. I remember a funny story about, so for anyone listening, when I first started my gaining phase with Ben, he introduced me to anabolic Cocoa Pops, right? Which has remained my favorite meal, I think, up until this point, years later, which is Cocoa Pops with whey protein milk. And so I did
the timing as well.
the time, what? Yes, yeah. So straight after training, get that anabolic response. And that would actually, in hindsight, that would drag me through if I was really struggling with a session or I really having to push myself. It's like, I need to earn my Cocoa Pops after this. You know, I'm going to go home. I'm going to enjoy a bowl of Cocoa Pops. And so anyway, so I use that, and I think that's, you know, it's a good thing for coaches that can, you know, take what works, right, and you can push it forward, you can pass it forward. So this 60-year-old that you're talking about, that you mentioned, Richard, he wanted to get shredded and do a photo shoot for his 60th birthday. And I said to him, right, okay, we're going, you know, a lot of people think you have to suffer through a cut, right, to get absolutely shredded. And so I was like, no, you're going to have this, and we're going to have that, and we're going to have the anabolic Cocoa Pops. And so I remember talking to him a few weeks in and going, are you enjoying your Cocoa Pops? You know, thinking like me, he'd just be over the moon with it. He was like, no. I was like, why not? He goes, they're really difficult to drink. Like, what the hell are you talking about? They're really difficult to drink. So he was making it as because I'd put on his meal planner, Cocoa Pops, whey protein, milk. He assumed it was a smoothie. So I was like, no, sit down, eat that, enjoy your Cocoa Pops. But, you know, I don't even know how we got onto that subject, but we run with it.
And does it not like eat at you when you see guys like that who are crazy busy, have all the reasons not to train, and you see normal regular guys or in our age that don't do it? Does that eat it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, when I'm training these guys who are really time poor, you know, they might be cash rich or asset rich or whatever, but super time poor. But they are making time for their health, making time for their fitness, making time for making sure their body can function as well as possible. And then guys with a lot more time will still come up with reasons or excuses as to why they can't get in the gym or whatever. And that can get frustrating. And it's about priorities at the end of the day, right? What is going to get you? And I understand with some young lads, they might not have maybe experienced any big injuries or aches and pains or low mood, low energy, things like that. But if they stay on like that, it's in the post.
100%. And the thing that I say, and you hear me say, I mean, I'll say, hammer it, you eat every day for the rest of your life.
Yes.
You live in your body.
Yeah. And that's kind of like a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because you're absolutely right. You eat every day of your life. So that's what's going to keep, you know, that's what's going to maintain the vehicle that we take through life, right? But the kind of other side to that is because everyone has eaten up until this point, they've eaten every day of their life, they think they're an expert in eating.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, when you actually went for where you start to examine what you eat. Like, I'm sure you find that, like, yes, you train for years and stuff, but it's like, when you actually, like, start actually tracking or starting looking at your eating, you're like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize. Like, 100%. Yeah, you probably, every conversation, you're like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing this and that. Why? Why is that? What made you think? You know, so, but that's the power of coaching. It's just getting you to reflect. Yeah. Like, I'm just getting you to sort of reflect on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's great. You kind of get me to evaluate things I've been doing, and then without you even saying it, I'm there going, God, I could have, I didn't realize I'm making this mistake or making that mistake or neglecting this. And I think, going back to my point before, like having the humility and kind of the lack of ego to be able to take that on board and go, okay, right, this is what Ben's pointing out, or this is what my coach is pointing out. And if I act on this now, I can change my whole trajectory, or I can keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to do the same year over again.
And someone that just came up, you said about hiding, right? About like that look on your bodybuilding show, that was one of the things that really sort of stood out for you, and really was like, it was a driver. I shared this on Tuesday night, like, and it's something that I've done. I'm currently not tracking. I haven't tracked for a fair amount of time. But one of the things I do every single morning is I look at my body, like for 10, 20 seconds, and I actually genuinely look at it. And like, for me right now, I'm pretty satisfied. Don't get me wrong, like there's so much more that I could do. There's so much more on how I could look and how I can improve. But for me, that's sort of my accountability measure. And I know that, like, say for example, if I have overeaten, you can see that you're slightly bloated. You can see, and that happens, you can see that you're a little bit softer. But it's like, yes, you don't need a bodybuilding show and tan and all that to think that you're hiding. But a lot of the guys, for me, they don't actually ever sort of sit down because they're so busy and so occupied with everything else that they never take care. They never actually reflect, how am I looking? How am I doing? Not just how you look, but how am I actually treating myself right now?
Oh yeah, I think that's massive, and I think a lot of guys either don't do that, or so they don't do it because they don't have time, don't give themselves time, or they deliberately don't do it because they know that their actions aren't indicative of the kind of results that they want. And so it's like you said, yeah, if you can look at yourself kind of impartially, just go, all right, I'm a little bit bloated, and you can, rather than going, oh, it's make excuses for it, go, oh, it's maybe because I went overboard on this, or I didn't manage my calories here, or I didn't manage my hydration, whatever it is. Being able to do that and being able to go, right, okay, how can I move forward from this? Like, and it's so important having that level of humility and just removing those emotions from it. Okay, right. It's like a step-by-step process. Every action has a reaction, right? And it's just being able to remove the emotion from it. Just go, okay, this reaction, what was the action that led to it? And there's 9 times out of 10, there's something there. You go, oh, I can tighten up on this, or I was a bit careless with that, or so yeah, I think that's
like, as bad as it sounds, you don't wake up fat.
No.
Yeah, you said as like you behave your way to a certain result.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, I want to shift this towards, we've talked about how your body looks, but you have a big value that it's not just about your body and how it looks. Like, what's the saying? Ornament?
Instrument, not ornament.
Yeah. Okay. So how have you created that? Because, like, yes, you look good, but you do so many other feats. Talk a little bit about that.
So, I guess over time, I think like a lot of young lads, when I started, it was all about how I looked, or kind of what perception I was giving off. But then when I started getting into more sports and, when I started becoming aware of energy and things like that, energy management, I realized that there's more to it than just looking like an ornament, like just looking good. You can look amazing, but if your energy's tanked and your mobility's rubbish and, your mood is low, then what's the point, right? But so, for example, for martial arts, I need to be explosive, but I also need to be very mobile, very flexible. So I incorporate yoga and stretching into that kind of thing. I need to have a good gas tank. So for energy management and things like that, so I'll incorporate, you got me into running, which I was against for a very long time, but, whether it's different types of cardio, swimming, things like that, and just having a, over time, it's more about the function. And I find that if you train, you train hard, you train smart, looking good is going to become a byproduct of feeling good. You take care of your body, push your performance, you're ultimately going to, unless you're, really careless in a certain area, you're ultimately going to look good.
What were the behaviors? Because, like, well, to give the guys context, like, Mike just literally yesterday sparred with like an ex-England boxer, and he held his own as well. Like Mike as well. Like we were talking about your next goals. We'll share that at the end. But running, doing shark tanks, rolling, Like he's been put through the mill for some sessions with me and Tom. So like he's literally always ready. But what were the behaviors in regards to just everything, diet, nutrition, mindset, setup, when you were solely just training to build those arms and now being always ready? Like what's the difference?
I think the difference now is just having it in the back of my head, like how do I want to perform, as well as how do I want to look. Like I said, it was always, or it was majority about how I look, but now it's, you know, if I'm eating and putting food in my body, it's like, how is this going to affect my performance? How is this going to benefit me? Or, you know, if I'm, yeah, okay, it's great to have, you know, big arms or to be ripped or whatever, but if I went into the sparring yesterday and I hadn't taken care of those other things, you know, I hadn't taken care of my gas tank, I hadn't taken care of my nutrition, my hydration, things like that, I had to exactly, yeah, get my greens in with my Hulk shake, which is something I like to do. You know, blend up all my veggies and make sure I got my micronutrients in. But, you know, it sounds funny, it sounds extreme, but that's how I'm making sure that I'm healthy, so I can go in there and not only perform, you know, like if I'd have gone in there just as a big ball of muscle, I'd have lasted about 10 seconds and then Kieran would have, you know, just had his way with me. And again, you know, you're more susceptible to injury or things like that. So you might look good, but if you're not functioning well, it's going to limit you so much. So I want to be able to jump in the gym with monsters like you and Tom, you know, and keep up. I want to be able to get on the jiu-jitsu mat, so jump in a boxing ring or go for a run or whatever it is, do yoga. So that's my goal, is that, and you've helped me with that, is kind of creating that hybrid athlete that's not, you know, look good but also function real good.
So like even before this or day, you're like, again, he's doing all this while he's traveling. Like this week you're in Dubai, you're gonna be in Jersey, you're gonna be in Florida, you've just been in Spain. But like we were talking about your sleep. So it's like you've looked at all your inputs from a food perspective with the Hulk shapes, with your nutrition, a training perspective. You've looked at all the inputs from a performance perspective, from an energy perspective. So you would say that's probably the biggest thing. Like, is that the difference?
Yes.
Just the inputs, like, right, energy and performance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just going, right, okay, what am I doing to ensure that that my performance is going to be where I want it to be, and the inputs, and that, like we were talking about on sleep, and little tweaks on how to make sure that recovery is optimized, nutrition, you know, all that stuff. Yeah, just guiding those inputs.
Can you do both at the same time? Because I know that you've got hundreds of people like into white collar fights that have literally not trained maybe in a few years, or your clients, you've got them doing ridiculous things. Can you do both at the same time? Can you look, if you're, say for example, you feel like you've got 20-30 pounds overweight and you're under muscled and you haven't necessarily trained regularly for a while, can you achieve both from the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, again, it's about, you just said it there, it's about managing your inputs, just going, right, okay, what is the goal? How what is it ultimately that we want to get to? So whether it's prepping someone for a fight or for an athletic competition or whatever, the principles are still the same. The principles of improvement, right, is making sure that the variables are on point. Variables that get you to top level performance are also going to get you to a top level body, right? You have to neglect something somewhere to neglect something somewhere, right? So if your body's going to fall behind, how it looks is going to fall behind. There's something being neglected. Now, a lot of people don't want to accept that. You know, there might be people who are really into running, or people who are really into martial arts, or whatever it is, that don't want to hear that. You know, they're not in the best condition because of a fallback somewhere. But again, that comes down to that humility of being able to go, okay, can I address everything? Not just my favorite things, but everything across the board that leads to that performance and aesthetic result. Just go, am I giving? And I got this from you. Like, how would you score your performance and your adherence on each of those areas? And if you can honestly say that it's a 9 or a 10 out of 10 everywhere, you're going to look good and you're going to function good. but you also have to have that humility to go, actually, most things are a 9, but this was actually a 6, or this was a 5. And then no one else needs to know. You just got to pull that area up, and that's your responsibility.
One of the things that helped me is because I used to be way better. I used to solely focus on just muscle building, and again, because I'd been so under muscled and I'd not really liked how my body looked, I had trained and that was my sole focus. Like if I had a good day or a bad day, it was down to like how I trained, which is, don't get me wrong, it was great at the time. I was so locked in, so focused, but didn't really, like, my relationships got affected, my work got affected. It wasn't the main thing. But what helps me is I think of, how would I outperform myself? If I was to meet myself a year's time from now, how would I outperform myself across the board? So it's like, yes, I want to look better, but it's also, well, would I be stronger? Would I be fitter? Would I be a better man? Would I be a better leader? Would I be a better boyfriend? A better brother? And that's something I think about. Like that gets me. That's the, I suppose for me, that's from a mindset perspective, that's the shift. Than solely, is my weight going to be down tomorrow, or is my or my lift's going to be up? It's 100% still in there, but it's just more holistic, and that's the thing that allows for me to get just that fucking locked in and just going for it. Is there anything like that for you? Like, because
100%.
what's the different, like, because you're striving now in all areas, but when you were bodybuilding, you're probably striving, or when you're early 20s or whatever, you're probably striving solely body. Like, what was the mindset that is different now?
I think, like you said, it's about understanding what the goal is and understanding what what you ultimately want, kind of performance wise, how you feel, how you turn up. I think that's a great point. Like, you want to turn up as the best colleague, the best teammate, the best son, the best partner. How can you ensure that? And that's something that you help me with. It's going, right, okay, it's not all about volume. So I was stuck in that mindset. Like a lot of guys will be like, if I want to get better at jiu-jitsu, I have to do every single jiu-jitsu session. If I want to get bigger, I have to be in the gym all the time. If I want to shred off body fat, I have to be doing 25,000 steps a day. And we chatted recently about, okay, how are we going to hit these new performance goals? You still want to hit the jiu-jitsu goals, right? So when are we going to be what's going to get the biggest bang for the buck? Is it, it's probably not doing 6 jiu-jitsu sessions a week. It's picking the 3 that are going to get you the best results, that you're going to perform the best at. Same with, being smart with the weights, being smart with the running, and I think that's a big thing for me is going, right, okay, establishing the goal and just going, right, what is going to push me towards that, and what could potentially hinder it by doing too much and kind of not managing workloads and managing expectations.
Doing less but better.
Exactly. Yeah, work smarter, not harder.
And like, for managing like strain over the years, it's definitely, I think as well, you have to be dynamic. We've had to be dynamic. Yeah, you would say, look, I've got a competition in X amount of weeks, or I've got this, or I've got that. And it's also like setting a plan in place, but then allowing for it to slightly shift, like every few weeks. Or if you're busted, sometimes you say, oh, I can't do that leg session. But it's being okay with that and not accepting that as failure. It's just being dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, I put a lot on your plate sometimes. Funny story that our friend Tom overheard me and Ben talking about my goals, and he said it was like I was reading out a Christmas list. Christmas list of Santa. I want to do the jiu-jitsu and the MMA and a handstand and the running. I'm like, oh, did you not ever say that? Yeah, and he says you look like you were reading out a Christmas list of Santa. So like, how are we going to get the big legs, but with the mobility and with the performance and stuff like that. But I think that's where having a great coach in your corner is like, okay, right, this is what we're going to get to. Let's work smart on this.
Full disclosure too, like there's goals that we've set over the last few years. We haven't hit them in the time frame we've wanted, but we hit them overall.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like sometimes you might set out and it might be like, right, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but we've had to maybe pull back from something. So there's been times throughout this where you pushed a little bit more BJJ, but we maybe pulled back on the body aspect. And
yeah,
I think that needs to, that's missed. People are trying to chase that sort of overall performance of the 100 body.
Yeah. I think exactly. Is understanding that okay, if something might take a little bit of precedence, over time, it's kind of, oh, that's okay, because you're gonna push up to another level on, for example, for me with the BJJ. All right, so I can't remember the goal at the time, but that can just, we just push that back a couple of months. I think it was the half marathon. Yeah, push that back. It's still there. It's still in the post. But, you're going to get to your BJJ goal, and then we can really kind of lock into to the speed aspect. I think having that and being able to manage that and being able to pivot, again, that accountability is so important.
And I think one of the biggest things too is like there's been periods with work and I've said, look, just put it back, or travel, just do this. And it's like, how can we get the minimum amount of progress during this time rather than going completely off?
Yeah.
And it's like having faith and confidence that we're moving forward, but it's not like at a crazy level.
Absolutely.
So I want to finish off with two. I know we could talk for hours.
Yeah, I'm loving this.
I want to finish off with two questions, right? So what is next for Mike? What's the next goal? What's the next? Give the guys a little bit of an insight to what's next for your next level now.
So my next level, we're pushing the kind of instrument, not ornament idea. I want to get to a point where I'm at competition level for martial arts, but also getting super strong in the gym. We've got a numbers target that we want to hit by the end of the summer.
Tell
So we got
it's all the new kind.
Yes, exactly. Okay, putting it out there into the universe. Yeah. So 500 kilo total over the 3 lifts, under 80 kilos. Want to do three 5-minute rounds back to back BJJ with a fresh black belt every round. 3 minutes with MMA fighters back to back every round, and get you'll have to remind me of 5K under 25 minutes. Yeah,
same day.
Yeah. Oh, and handstand and splits. Yeah. So not very much at all.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Oh,
but no, they're kind of goals that really, that's the importance of chatting through goals and finding something that kind of lights a fire under you, because those, even though they might sound daunting, and they are, I'm going to have to push myself hard. I can't wait to get my teeth into all of those goals, because they're all things that I want and I know that I can achieve, with the right approach.
And to tell the listener, we've just broken down his sort of aspects that he wants of BJJ, muscle and strength and fitness and mobility, and then we just put a metric on it. Mm-hmm. So, and put a challenge on it just so they can see the thinking. But the last question I want to ask you, right? You've been training years on years, right? If you'd achieve everything that you've achieved, all the physique, the body, all of your overall development in half the amount of time, how would you do it?
Great question. I would have reached out sooner for help. That was the biggest thing. That was one of the things that kind of held me back for a long time. And then just
forget about support system. Just
okay. I'll just make you do different. So what would I do different? I would focus on the goal. So goal setting, and just really be reflective on am I pushing towards the goal that I want? Day on day, week on week. Tracking data sounds so simple, but it's so important. If we don't measure it, we can't manage it. And I kind of winged it for so long. And I think, just tracking whether it's nutrition, whether it's recovery, whether it's performance, progressive overload, whatever it is, it's tracking, knowing that data, knowing your numbers, just going, right, okay, is my trajectory going in the right place?
Would there be anything different from a mindset perspective?
Mindset, I think worrying less about what other people think and focusing more on what I want to do and why I want to do it, rather than, what people are doing on social media or what people are doing in my immediate environment or things like that. Okay, what is it that I want to achieve? Why do I want to achieve it? And then setting up my environment that way.
for the listener, you'll hear me ask this question. This is going to be a staple question for all the guest episodes. But one of the things I've noticed from asking people that is that there's just so much more squeeze. They would squeeze themselves to push themselves more. They would squeeze themselves to focus on them, not other people. They would squeeze themselves to, like, one thing I think about when I think about, right, getting into this sort of shape is like I would have not told myself, oh, you can make this flexible. I would have pushed a little bit harder. And I say that because I see, and you know what, Mike, I always talk about it, like, there's so many guys listening to this are being passive, and we all can be passive or we just let things coast by, but there's so much more. That just really pulls potential out of you. So I really want you to think about, like, right, we're currently in May going into the end of the year. Like, what needs to happen for you to leave this year sounds the best year of my life? You can just think about that. That just fucking gets you going and gets you really, like, pouring your ability into your days, pouring your ability into your task, into your work, into your training, into you. So it's like, I really hope that over the series of these episodes that you take that from each individual and you apply that. Like, you apply that urgency, you apply that effort, and you really just commit and go for it. So, yeah. So, Mike, sorry I went off on one there. Any last piece of advice you'd like to give to the listeners? Anything you just want to leave with or share? Or
I think just like we've talked about is make your goals your own, and then just go after it, like you said, with that mentality. Just going, okay, right, have I given everything into this, and have that last two. I say this a lot, is have that last two reps mentality. When you can finish a set and you think, okay, am I really ready to finish, or have I got two left? And you can transfer that to your nutrition, to your sleep, to your mobility work, to whatever. Like, have I really pushed myself here? Have I got a couple left in the tank? And just be super, like, honest with yourself about that, and then that little kind of mindset shift to really push you forwards.
And where can the guys see more about your journey, what you're up to, your next venture? It's called Ice. Like, where can the guys follow along your journey?
So I'm most active on Instagram. So Michael Canas MC. I'll be documenting everything on there. That's probably on Facebook as well, but probably mostly on Instagram. And then obviously in the Level Up Academy as well.
Guys, like, I could have went down so many things, like, with Mike. There's so many amazing moments. Like, we could talk about the BBC thing, we could talk about so many different aspects, but we'll definitely need to shoot a part two.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is big, so it was. But guys, I hope that you got a lot from this. I would love for you to share this on your socials. I would love it. It would mean the absolute word. It helps us get our name out there, helps us get the podcast out there. Give Mike follow along on his journey and everything that he's achieving. And as well, if there's any questions, like I say, guys, every single day I go into my inbox. If there's any questions, I'll get back to you as soon as I can.